So we constantly hear the term trust in God, put your trust in God. Are you trusting God? But how often do we hear the term, are you trusted by God? Yo, it's your boy PB, and I've been a full-time content creator and six-figure entrepreneur for about the last 5 years. And over my journey of growing my career and growing in my walk with Christ, this specific question has become paramount to my whole relationship with God. So the first idea is, what does it actually mean to be trusted by God? Because this is a new term that I don't think a lot of us actually think about. We always hear people say, you need to put your trust in God. You need to always make sure that you're trusting God. But we don't often think about the contrary side is, have we proven to God that we can be trusted by Him? So let's look at a very popular passage. Matthew 25 is the parable of the talents. And I've always loved this passage. It's kind of long, but stick with me. I think it's important. So starting in verse 14, for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you had to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast a worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So in this passage, a talent is a unit of money that basically represents a large amount of wealth. But the thing is, in English, a talent is a skill or an ability, right? So if we use those words talents, think about the talents that you have right now. And how often have you personally went back and forth on whether you should actually be using this talent to glorify God? See, the thing is, the devil will do anything to get in the way of you actually representing Christ fully. The first verse literally says that the master entrusted these servants with talents, and the one who actually invested and did more, had a higher return, took the risk, and actually went out and did something with it, was rewarded in the end. The one who played it safe was actually punished in the end, and his talents were taken from him and given to the person who proved that he could be trusted by God with the talents. Let's take a look at some Old Testament examples as well. Think about Abraham and Isaac. Abraham was literally told to sacrifice his only son. After years and years of never having a child and just waiting and waiting on God's promise, he's finally given a boy, and God says, Yo, I actually want you to kill this kid. Can you imagine what he was thinking? And yet Abraham proved that he could be trusted by God. And because of that, after an angel of the Lord came to Abraham and said, because you have proven to God that you can be trusted by him, you will be blessed with a multitude of descendants that outnumber the stars in the sky. Think about Joseph, everything that he went through in Egypt, all the tests and temptations that he went through, even those 2 years that he spent in prison, 2 years, and not once did he blaspheme the name of the Lord. All of that literally proved to God that he could be trusted, and later turned into a blessing of him becoming one of the greatest rulers ever to rule over Egypt. And one more example that I found extremely powerful, but I don't think a lot of people know this story, is the King Jehu. So the reason why I like the story of Jehu is because he didn't just prove his faith by doing what was hard to do. He actually lived out the characteristic of the wrath of God over the people. I really recommend that you read this story. It's 2 Kings 9 and 10. And I recommend that you actually dive into the history of the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah to understand the context of the story. But basically, Jehu was anointed king by the prophet Elisha. And as soon as Jehu became king, he goes and completely eradicates the presence of pagan gods in the kingdom of Israel. He goes as far as to murder all of the relatives of the pagan kings before him, completely takes out all the worshipers of Baal at that time, and really proves to God that, hey, I can be trusted by you to live out your characteristics on this earth. So when I was actually studying through Kings, I went through the story of Jehu. I put it in a perspective that I could understand. So myself as a businessman, I thought to myself, if I were to be sick one day, or if I was unable to attend a shoot for a client because I have a creative agency, if I was unable to go and do the work and I needed somebody to go and do the work for me, to edit the content and then post it in my name as a representative of me, how much trust and intimacy and loyalty would I have to have with that person to trust them to actually do that work well? There would have to be a consistent relationship. I would have had to coach them. They would have had to prove to me that they can do a good job, that they actually care about business, that they actually know who I am, my style of shooting, and my quality of work. And in the same way, God's will is lived out through us as humans on earth. And we're talking about God, the creator of the universe. We're not talking about just representing another human who has weaknesses and inabilities and doubts and flaws and everything like that. We're talking about the perfect God. How much consistency and loyalty and intimacy would you have to have with the creative universe in order to accurately live out his characteristics on this earth? See, nowadays it's super easy to make a video, it's super easy to put content out there and say that we're a representative of God. But what we don't see on camera, what we don't see on social media is how much that person is actually putting into their personal relationship with Christ. So what happens nowadays is we see a lot of false representatives, false preachers in the pulpits, self-acclaiming apostles and prophets who are putting out a false representation of God. And what happens is a lot of people who don't claim to be Christian, who actually go against God nowadays, they say that the church has hurt them, or somebody in the church has hurt them, or this pastor did this. And that's very accurate. And that's why the Bible says that those who represent God, those who are pastors, who are disciples, they will be judged harder because they are literally representing Christ. So the thing is that the Lord's will is going to happen no matter what, but you have to choose where your level of involvement is going to be. Are you going to pass up your talents that you have been given? Are you going to completely throw away the opportunities in front of you because you're too scared of a risk, because you feel like you might fail, you feel like that you're not as good as you need to be, and allow somebody else to take those exact same talents and actually truly live it out for the Lord? If you look at the examples of all the prophets and all the main characters of the Old Testament, they all had some type of significant sign of faith, some significant proof and evidence that, hey, God, you can trust me. Noah went and built a whole ark, a huge boat when it had never rained before. Think about the level of awareness of Christ and the relationship you have to have with God, and overcoming all those limiting beliefs in order to look past what everyone is saying around you, all the ideas of failure and every obstacle that's in your way, in order to continue on the path for Christ. And that's exactly what I believe is holding the church back nowadays, and what is really holding a lot of Christians back. We have evidence that we have talents. For example, for me, God has obviously given me a passion and a talent for videography, for creating content, but I have struggled so much in my journey with thinking, am I good enough? Is this actually what I'm supposed to do? Will people actually like my content? All of these limiting beliefs. But once you overcome that and you prove to God, hey God, I can be trusted by you. The Bible says to whom much is given, much is required. So in fact, on the contrary, if you are struggling with those battles and those internal beliefs and that perspective on yourself, then you really have to pinpoint that to the idea that God has blessed you with a lot, and all that pressure that is on you is a perfect sign that you need to do the exact thing that is on your heart for the Lord. So there's so much more on this idea that I want to share, and I guarantee that this is not the last video that I'm going to make on the idea of being trusted by God. But the biggest takeaway that I hope that you get from this video is that there is no greater joy or fulfillment than to walk with God and to truly know him. And the thing is, that level of intimacy and that gift to truly have a purpose with your life and to truly have significance and impact with the tools that God has given you in your life to truly live that out is 100% a battle. It is not a walk in the park. So don't think that just because you've been blessed by God or just because you have a talent that everything is going to be smooth riding. In fact, if you are using your talent, your passion, everything that you have been blessed with for the Lord, it is going to be harder than just going the other way and just doing something that is passive for yourself. So remember that, and I hope that encourages you as you're walking with Christ and as you're learning to fulfill his purpose and his will with your talents. So if this encouraged you, please leave a like, please subscribe. Feel free to comment below some different challenges that you're facing right now. Give me some feedback so I can do better in my craft and what I'm doing here for you guys. And until next time, keep pushing and don't give up.